Hello and welcome to Chasing Creativity. Today I have not one but two guests, the director, producers, writing duo Raj and DK, who have just dropped their latest series, Guns and Gulaabs, on Netflix. Welcome to Chasing Creativity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's such a pleasure to have you because I've admired your work and I've seen how you've sort of pushed the boundaries when we didn't even know boundaries existed with things like Go Go Are Gone. And that was so incredible to see. And I've always wondered, two boys from India who went and studied abroad, and you all studied engineering. I think you studied a film, but you studied engineering.
both of us.
No, no,
both
both
of you all
of us
did
studied
engineering.
engineering.
How did film happen to you? How did you come together? And how did you all decide to come back and make films?
I think the single word answer is boredom or monotony.
Okay.
Actually, it was like a path was laid out. I felt like entire life was planned and laid out in front of us that many had followed. Many had done that before. So now it was our turn. Like, you study well, get your good ranks, good grades, try and top the university, get your masters, then you go get the IT job, get the house, get the van, get married, get kids. So the whole path was laid out, and we had a really cushy jobs, right? We both
Yeah, I
had.
know, pretty good, high-paying jobs and nice jobs. But see, I think what I can say is that everybody who we grew up in the state of Andhra Pradesh, and everybody
Yes.
who grows up in the state of Andhra Pradesh is secretly a filmmaker at heart.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much every person in Andhra, and I would say that's true for Tamil Nadu as well. We're all crazy about movies. As a people, we're crazy about movies, and everybody has a dream of making a movie. And I think we were lucky enough to be in the right place at the right time. We were in the US having these good jobs, making decent amount of money, and suddenly we felt all the responsibilities being lifted away. And this was also at the turn of the century. This was also the cusp of the digital revolution, where you had access to digital video cameras and digital editing systems, and suddenly we felt that there was nothing stopping us from making a film if we wanted to.
And the difference is, like you were saying, that most of us, or everybody thinks they're a filmmaker. We all talk about the edits and how well the movie could have been made, and there's a whole discussion about it. Everyone is a part of filmmaking in Andhra. So I think the difference was, earlier friends used to ask, how come you did this? How did you do this? Where did you start moving into actually making films?
Making the movies.
I think the difference was that everybody used to discuss and we used to write it down.
Uh-huh.
That was the first switch, that where we actually started writing down ideas. Like, I always say that I had like almost 10-12 diaries, all kinds of cool books to write different ideas. A different idea will go into a blue book, another red book will have other ideas. So it was a slightly organized way of capturing thoughts over years. There's still no plan to become a filmmaker. It was more of, hey, let me write it down. I have a thought, I have a visual. Oh, that person is quite interesting. So it was just a way of capturing ideas and thoughts for a while.
So did you all train at all in filmmaking?
No.
No, we watched a lot of films.
That was the
That was the
training.
training.
What were your influences in filmmaking? Who were the ones that you really admired and looked up to in terms of directors, actors, whatever?
Around that time, again, like I said, the early 2000s, around that time, there were a lot of these indie filmmakers finding their voice. Like I said, that's also a virtue of us being in the right time at the right place. There was this whole American indie movement. A lot of the most famous directors that you're seeing today, right from Christopher Nolan to Steven Soderbergh to
Robert Rodriguez.
even Tarantino, maybe like 5 years earlier than that. But David Fincher and Doug Liman, all these people that are big directors today were making their first or their initial films, their formative
even
films.
Iñárritu, right? Iñárritu.
Iñárritu, Cuarón, like literally every visionary director that you know.
Anybody right now that you see that you think they have a special vision or voice, they were all making their first films around that time, plus or minus 5 years. But that 10-year period was an extremely strong independent movement, is what we felt. And that drew us, because we were watching mainstream films. You're watching all these big action spectacles, the whole theatrical, films. But thankfully, those days, theaters were still playing these other films. And so you're watching all these and you're thinking there is this cinema too, that it doesn't have to be the mainstream just meant for, like, let's say, just to make some money or whatever. But the independent films had a bit more. They were unique. They were all unique yet entertaining. So we knew.
And they were all indie homegrown projects, right?
Right.
Like Soderbergh's first film was Sex License Videotape,
Tape.
which is a very low budget film.
But a cult
Robert
classic.
Rodriguez, I forgot to mention, he
Little Mariachi.
made a film with his neighbor's borrowed camera and some amateur actors, and he did some medical experiments to raise money to make the film. And you read about all this. It's very, very, very inspirational to read about it. And then you realize that at least we are better off than them in terms of having a little more money because we have well-paying jobs. All we need to do now is learn filmmaking from them, from watching
them.
their
Yeah,
films.
and what
Yeah.
we used to do is we used to work. We used to be in two different cities. We went to the same college in India, and then we again connected in America. So and we have two different cities, and we used to start talking. We didn't even have a plan. It was more like right now, anybody gets an idea, they'll say, "Let's make a movie." Right? At that point, it was a far off idea because you're not connected. All you're thinking is, we should do something fun. No, like what? We don't know. Let's write something. Do we know how to write? No. Okay, let's figure out how to write. It was like almost that, pick a book and say, how do you write a screenplay? You'd be like, okay, we'll start from here. And we don't know what else to do after that.
You read 2 chapters and you're like, okay, I've read plenty. Now I know how to write.
I know how to make-
You don't finish the book
I
either.
had so many books on film, and they were all first chapters were read. And then we start doing things like, now we want to make a film. Like a short film or something, and we really are not connected to any film organization. We don't know the existence of film organizations for the first couple of years, I think. So what do? We go to Walmart or Best Buy, pick up some mics and make our own little boomstick, like buy a stick and tie it around so it becomes a mic. We buy these lights. We don't know if what halogen or not. We don't know what it is, but we buy lights to make sure that shadows are not hitting you. And we realize, oh God, it's a horrible shadow. What do we do with it? So, we should put another light here so that shadow goes away. So it was this level of reinventing the wheel. And it was fun.
But I think that also worked to your advantage because you came in with no preconceived notions of how things needed to be done and how they were done, and you just made your own language.
No,
Sometimes not knowing how to do things might force you to do it in the only way you know how to do it. And, if you're lucky, people like that. And you're like, oh, you're a
might look
genius. You did this in a
original,
different way. We're like, I'm not a genius. I just didn't know how else to do it.
You might just be original. You might just do because you don't know how
Knowing
else
how
to
to
do.
do it. That's so wonderful. I mean, that's so heartening that you took that leap of faith at that point of time. Everybody would say, well-paid, settled jobs. Don't give it up.
And to add to that, like I was saying, not just these American indies, that was also the time of all these Indian crossover films that were happening. So there was just this blooming of a lot of independent cinema that was happening. A lot of Indians in America or Indians from India were making these very low budget first films kind of a thing. And so you're seeing this happening around you, and that played a big role.
Okay.
Like they say, like the 70s was the new wave of cinema where Spielberg and Scorsese and Lucas and all these famous people, the big people today, their first films happened in the 70s. And I like to think that the late 90s to, say, the noughts was another wave that happened.
Absolutely. When you made your movies, your first movies, and then you decided to come down to India and to make your movies here, you broke into an industry that is almost a cabal. How easy or difficult was it? I mean, your work spoke for itself, of course, but it is a very closed industry. So
It was very difficult, actually. And especially we are outsiders forget about being part of the industry. We're not even from Bombay. Our Hindi at that time, Mumbai, I should say, our Hindi at that time was passable at best. Like, my knowledge of Hindi came from learning Hindi in school, like
I
bookish
thought your
Hindi.
Hindi came from Mahabharat. Watching
Yeah,
Ramayana, Mahabharat.
and watching Ramayana and Mahabharat on television. That's my source of knowledge for Hindi. So, yeah, if either of us started speaking in Hindi, it would sound very odd, I think, at that time.
But somehow we understood it well. I don't know
Yeah.
why, but we could see, and there was also a grasp of the fact that when Hindi was spoken in films, we were here trying to make a film and watching films in theaters, and we realized that they don't. They were kind of sounding the same, like it was written, like dialogues were being spoken at least some of the films were like dialogues were being spoken versus people talking normally. And so we thought, hey, we shouldn't do that. We should try and be more natural, even if we don't know Hindi. So we actually used to call up for our first film, 99. I say this often that we used to call up friends and my cousin in Delhi, and I used to call up and say, how do you say this line? Because, and then you type it up. Or like I said in bad Hindi, bad grammar, and they'll correct it. So it started becoming very real, a little more real and fun, and you could relate to these lines better, even though we didn't have like punch lines and those dramatic dialogues.
Again, it's a question of us not being part of the system, not knowing how Hindi film dialogues are
done.
written or how dialogues are spoken. Also gave us the opportunity to say it like we say it, right?
Just like the short film, we made a short film because we thought, okay, now we were outsiders, no clue. We just come here and say, I want to meet Ram Gopal Verma, and they're like, I don't know how. So you sit. Then we'll say, I want to meet Mani Ratnam. So we don't know how. You just sit around. So what we thought we should do is write. Let's just write it. And I hear that people don't have scripts fully done. So let's write our scripts really, really well, but in like a bound script, and not just one. Let's write two.
Okay.
Two different genres, so that this is our engineering at work, right? So you make two scripts so that you have two chances now to do it. So once we do it, we realize that, okay, nobody knows us. Anybody we're meeting, they're saying, who did you work with? Did you go to film school? We'd be like, yeah, we did. We just nod when they say they went to film school. I said,
Where
sure.
are you from? We are from America. Oh, you went to film school there.
Sure, probably.
Flies of omission.
But anyway, we used to fake resumes in IT to get a job, right? All Indians fake their resumes in IT. It's like, because nobody takes you.
Yeah, what are you hiring
2 years
for?
of experience in this. Only then you take.
Yeah,
Otherwise
it's like you have a resume and it's like, what are you hiring for? Oh, you're hiring for SAP. Wait. Okay, yeah, I have 3 years of experience.
So therefore, you had film school training in America.
yeah, it's that. So like he was saying that when we decided to make, again, we thought, what can we do to be seen or heard or understood that we are filmmakers and we might have some filmmaking talent in us. So we made a short film all by ourselves, like, and at that point just pull out some money and made a short film called Shore. We went to an FDII screening and recruited everybody. Let's get him. It's like that. Like people walking around and saying that they're all actors. And then we got a DOP from there. And we just shot, like we didn't know better. So we just took the camera, 2 cars, going around with 4 people each, finding a location, getting down and shooting a scene. Till we were
wonderful.
caught. Right? So we went and shot a scene in train also. We went inside, got inside the train and started shooting in local train.
Without
didn't know.
permissions.
We didn't know we cannot.
Okay.
That was so strange that finally when we went to a overpass and were shooting a wide shot and the cop came and said, what the fuck are you doing? So yeah, we made one and we kind of, that was the key. That was the
Okay.
final key that we could get it to actors to watch it. And then they realized, oh, this is very good. How come? Who are these guys? And then we would show that short film and say, make this script. Not the same script because that script was too raw and indie. We wanted to make 99. So, but they bought in that these guys can make a film. And so
On
that's
basis
how.
of that short film.
But it took 5 years for
It
that
took
journey.
5 years.
Yeah,
Wow.
because
We had to go back. We had to go back to America, make some more money because we ran out of money. We've spent everything on our first shorts and first film and all. So we came back, made a little more money because didn't want to do odd jobs to make money, spend time on actually trying to
so
get
it
the
was just
film out.
making money. We knew how to make money. We had a good opportunity to make money by going back to consulting software.
Yeah.
So we went back, sat there for almost 2.5 years. Went back after our first little experimental film we had made. We went back and then sat for 2 years, worked with the pure goal of not having a career but just making as much money as you can, so that you can stop everything and come and survive in Bombay for another 2 or 3 years, because we realized that's how long it's going to take. So it was it almost took us 5 years as a journey to
get the first
finally
Hindi
get the first film
yeah.
going. And there were many actors we had met and a lot of people, varying levels of interest. They loved the script, but at some point they're not sure who are these newcomers. I mean, I don't know, can I risk making a film? So there was a lot of people that almost did it. There were people that didn't do it. And eventually the film happened.
And look where you're today. What a fabulous journey. I read somewhere, I forget whether it was Raj or UTK, gentlemen didn't do well. And one of you, I don't know who it was, went to a barista and started writing Sri
Oh, Sri
Kalana.
Kalana.
Sri Kalana, yeah.
So, do you believe that the story finds you and something channels the story through you? Because that's a very surreal kind of a moment, isn't it? That the story
More-
just came to you.
No. The we have many stories that are in our head. They keep brewing over time. There are some ridiculous ones that won't make sense. So this is one of them that was. It's not a story. It was just an incident that had happened when we were in college and school in my hometown. And but there was no great idea behind it except for silly, silly happenings at night. There was no point to it. So the point came, the point struck, like in where suddenly there was a social commentary in it. That suddenly there was a gender reversal in it, where the ghost became almost like a feminist in a way that she would only go after men, and the men are the ones that are scared to venture out at night, and they'll be asking their wives to say, can you come along, I don't want to go alone, or they'll be draping saris to look like women so they don't get caught. So that idea is the new idea that came on top of an existing fun thought that was just a fun film, could never be made, wouldn't have made it. So yeah,
So
no,
that was also kind of us reinventing or picking up the pieces, because we knew, like, on the day
going
of
back to where we
on
started,
the
right?
day a gentleman launched, we knew it was not doing well, because, I mean, besides many other reasons, Bombay was washed out. There was, like, I don't know, 2 stories deep water
Okay,
in
so
Bombay, and there were riots in the north, in Delhi and Punjab, other areas. So I mean, it was like trouble after trouble. So we knew this weekend's going to
Plus
be
we
gone.
had
And but also what had happened, see, earlier we were doing kind of a certain kind of films, be it 99 or Short in the City or Go Go Gone. We were making films that were not somehow fitting into the mainstream mold and standing out on their own. And I think after that, these two films that we made, Happy Ending and A Gentleman, were our way of kind of trying to fit into the mainstream mold.
basically in
And
in Gentleman itself, you have a story. If you take out the packaging, the layering of it, the top part, you have a fun story, but you also made it, we also made it fun, and songs and music, right, and locales and all. Again, we've tried to make it
see,
very
I'm proud
organic.
of it. I'm proud of both of these films. And but except maybe somewhere it's the packaging. Maybe it's looking too mainstream, but not mainstream enough. I don't know. It's very, I mean, everything in hindsight, right? I mean, 2020 hindsight. But so that's where we decided, okay, now let's go back to the basics. Let's go back to how we made Go Go Gone. Just do it on our own. Find that story that appeals to us. Forget about packaging it. Forget about this big summer blockbuster idea. That's how we went back to Stree.
that's how you went back. There's a line I read from one of your interviews, and I'm going to read it out. Asterix and Tintin became the fodder for the style of humor and action we still respond to. And I see in your work there is humor and horror, there is humor and thriller, there is humor and again crime. It's a very delicate balance. How do you manage to pull it off? I mean, it's not something that can be explained,
No,
but
it
you know,
has to be organic. The only way humor can work in any of these subjects, the toughest one is the family man. Because you have diametrically, we were told when a big showrunner from the US had read our Bible, said you can't do it like this. You have to take the family out of this, or keep the family to 10%. There are no shows out there that on spies or the homeland security or whatever it is, the whole protecting the country, that kind of genre. You don't have, they always run like a thriller or a drama. There is no humor in it. There is no you don't spend so much time on the family. In a way, you pick the genre you want, because this is not a genre. You are now going into bunch of genres, so it doesn't make sense. So it made us think for a second. There is no precedence. There was no other show out there in the world where this elements were together, even as a feature film.
Yeah.
Even in feature films. So
Yeah, and
because
I feel-
it gets pretty serious, right? The Family Man gets very serious, and it gets deep, and a lot of things explode as the show goes. But the humor, you don't find it forced.
yes.
And
It's a natural everyday humor that comes in. And in general, I think the world across, I think American cinema is like that. It's usually when they go for horror, they go for horror. If it's a relationship drama, it's a relationship drama. It's a comedy, romantic. So, but I think that's where Indian cinema or Asian cinema are just the way we all operate. We differentiate.
The only time they actually have humor would be that it becomes a spoof. You make a spoof. You make a spy spoof, or
No,
like
then you're a
something else.
comedy,
Yeah,
right?
it's a-
You're not a drama.
With
You're not
humor.
an action drama comedy.
So
You're-
I
you're-
think we
yeah.
just started looking right from the beginning. Even the short film for 99 Flavor, Shore in the City, any of these things, we were looking at it with a lens of a bit a sense of humor. That's it. Shore in the City is a good example because Go Go Gone it's a comedy, but Shore in the City is, people have made films on the city of Mumbai because it's always so inspiring. It was inspiring for us too. We came as NRIs sitting here and everything was hitting us. I was taking so many pictures added to those notes. Now I used to do photos everywhere I go, and I used to like cut newspapers like 10 every day morning. We used to have like 5 papers each. Go just read through, find all the strange stuff like it's only inherent in India and Mumbai, and then cut all those. We had so many clips. What is the story now, right? So that's how Shore in the City was formed. But there is a sense of humor to it. You have a little bit of a touch of that. Everything can be looked like that. I feel you can look at this scenario right now and make a little funny scene out of this, even though we're talking serious business here, right? Because
Absolutely.
maybe this coffee is too hot and I'm struggling to sip it as I do it. My focus is here, and if I shoot it the scene like this could be funny too, right?
That's funny in everything. I think Farzi had that very funny moments when they're actually talking about, how difficult it is to be poor and middle class right at the beginning of it. But there's so much humor in that. Even in Guns and Gulaabs yesterday, the gentleman comes to his new job, but they don't have a garland to welcome him because the garland has been ordered. It's a little bit of humor that's so touching and so funny. One final question on process. How do you all work together? How are the responsibilities divided? What is your creative process like?
No, there is no division of responsibility, I think.
Okay. So
Yeah.
you'll meld everything together and you'll work.
Yeah, so we're both capable of doing everything. We both kind of end up doing everything, but there is an easy handoff. It's not that saying both do the same thing every time. It's just that there is an easy handoff. Like I start off doing something, and then he can pick it up from there, and then I can pick it up from there. So it's there is no formula to it. It's just that comfort of being able to pass it on. Like if you ask our actors, you'll get a better answer for this. Like
Okay.
a lot of times they think both of us are on set, and they won't know when one person has gone or when another person has come in, and so it's a very seamless process for everybody else.
But the approach to filmmaking, we try and be organized. We approach it a little more systematically. Then there is more. I guess there is. We need that organizational approach.
Coming to Guns and Gulaabs.
Yeah.
What made you all come up with the idea of a character like Pannadari Tipu and setting it in this 90s retro world? And of course, you said pulp. It's pulpy, it's retro, it's a mishmash of various styles. How did this story come about?
Guns and Gulaabs is a venting. Like it was just like for us, we wanted to just do one unbridled, unhinged, just open comedy that anything goes, everything goes. Because the family man had a serious business. Farzi had a cinematic story to tell. This one was just let's go back to what we used to do in '99 and stuff like that. And that's where that's the idea of Guns and Gulaabs in terms of
Yeah,
just
it's also
being.
and also what's intrinsic to the story, intrinsic to this particular story is there's a certain level of innocence in all the characters, and so it's kind of like a throwback to simpler times when people were simpler and the times were simpler,
Okay.
which is like literally 1990, and that's why even the bad guys there is an element of innocence in them or naivete. They just don't know better, and that was inherent, like intrinsic to the story. That's why that era lends itself nicely to it. There were no cell phones. There's no quick communication. Everything is a little old-fashioned. You have to write a letter
to
convey your love.
Lovely. That was very lovely. Is the title a hat tip to Guns N' Roses?
So it's a hat tip to the entire show is a hat tip to times,
To the times.
80s,
Okay.
and it started in 1990. So we were we're giving our nods to the 80s stuff. Of course, Guns N' Roses. All of us were Guns N' Roses fans, and the funny part is we're from a very small town where we would have proper Telugu music, but we would also go to an audio library to do a mixtape and put in these songs. So we had our own list of playlist, right?
Playlists,
Our
yes.
original playlist. So we really wanted to put that into a small town where an English song doesn't belong in a film, in a show or a film like this. You would never hear an English song in a setting like
Yes.
this. But that made it even more interesting. So we actually had to get rights for these
Okay, you got the rights
songs
to the songs.
to
Yeah.
actually play in the series. And of course, and we wanted to be a little cheesy in the title, because this is, like we call this a crafted cheese, where you could be loud, you can be like fanfare music, music wise it's fanfare, bigger shots, people with flares and people killing,
And the
there's
bad guy thinks
freezes.
is Khalnaik.
So we
Right? He
went,
styles himself after Khalnaik, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
so hence and we wanted to make it sound like an English Hindi thing, like Guns and Gulaabs. So it became Guns and Roses to Guns and
Lovely.
Gulaabs.
There's a very strong element of destiny in the series. Tipu does not want to follow his father into the business. Wittingly, unwittingly, he gets thrown into it and drawn into this world of. It sort of reminded me of, Amitabh Bachchan ke Te Mera Baap Chor Hai. How do you handle this theme of destiny and predestination in your films when you're also trying to, show that a person has made a conscious choice to go that way?
see, that's part of the. That's all. That is a quite organic part of how the characters developed and how the story developed. And see, there is no particular film from that era that's an inspiration of any kind, but the inspiration is from the times, from the people, and from the lives of the people. But growing up the way we grew up in the South, movies were a big influence on all of us, and I'm sure it's like that for the rest of the country too. And so films do form a part of the culture. So there is a lot of film references and people trying to be like their heroes in the films that they watched and all that. But so while it's a hat tip to a lot of the films from that era and to that era in general, I don't think there's anything that's specific or particular about any any
The
particular film.
destiny part, yes, it does. I think our stories tend to have a bit of, what can I say, the word, a bit of spiritual / existential thoughts in it. It's been there since Shore in the City, subliminally sometimes, subconsciously sometimes maybe as design. In this case, destiny plays a big deal. For everybody there is a certain even for others, he doesn't want to do what he's supposed to do. Even Dulkar's storyline, you'll realize he doesn't want to do what he wants to do. This is what he wants, a simple life. Even Atma Ram there is a whole double meaning to us as creators. There's more to him than what you see, and of course, it's not like it'll be evident in the series, but there's a thought behind why is he Atmaram? Why is these 4 cuts? What is it about? So there is a bit more thought and a bit of spirituality there somewhere, I think. So yeah,
So we'll have to watch the series to find out.
yeah.
What is the core message that you want people to take away from the series, if any? Of course, you want them to be entertained, but is there something that you want them to take away?
That we're all grey.
Yeah.
That 90s.
Har insan mein hai shaitan. That's the chapter title of the first chapter. It's also a line that features in the trailer.
Yeah.
And
in 90s, or especially the films where things were quite, or 80s, were quite black and white.
Very black
Bad
and
guy,
white.
good guy.
Very black and
That's
white
it.
here.
Honest cop, good son. And they never waver. They
Yeah,
will
we had Diwar
arrest
and
your
all those.
mother if you have to.
Yeah.
They do that. So the idea is to also take the black and white characters that we are used to, including the bad guy, and try and make them a bit more human, and maybe just accept the gray side of it, or at least go on a ride with them to their gray, maybe dark side of them.
Lovely. You shot it in Dehradun at the peak of the pandemic. How difficult was that? And what were the challenges of shooting during the pandemic?
Shooting during the pandemic in itself is a huge challenge, of course,
Yeah.
right? I mean, just the number of rules and regulations and how many people can be together, right? It's very hard to even communicate with the actor because we're all wearing masks and maintaining social distance. And now, you know what I mean? Now imagine a crew coming in and everybody coming in. Yeah, but I mean, but eventually, it was also like now the third wave. So people had figured out at least procedures to keep in place, what all you do to avoid the spread of of COVID. And we followed all procedures. We had a team, specifically health and safety team for COVID precautions, and there were all kinds of things happening. And when we were shooting, every single person on the crew got COVID once.
Oh Lord. Okay.
So there was still no avoiding it in the third wave. Like I got it, he was holding fort. He got it, I was holding fort. The DOP got it. The second DOP was holding fort. The production designer got it. The second, his immediate assistant was holding fort.
We
So
somehow had we somehow had two people.
somehow, I think it was part of the plan because we had shot Fuzzy then, and we had shot Fuzzy through 2021 through the second wave, or at least we had to wait out the second
Okay.
wave, and when things reopened, we shot it.
Okay.
So going towards the end of the year, we knew that if there was another wave coming, we should beef up our thing. So we always tried to get the good HOD, like a good DOP, and everybody, the head of department is good, and have one really, really capable number 2 person, just in case the number 1 person is indisposed for a couple of days, we can still shoot. And there's 2 of us anyway, naturally. And so we made sure that every department had a very strong number 2. And it really helped us because every single person, I think without exception, caught COVID once.
Oh Lord.
Yeah.
I hope none of the actors got COVID. That would have been difficult.
They did.
They
too.
did?
They did too. We had to work around it.
You had to work around that. Oh Lord. I read somewhere, and I think that also holds true in what I've watched of your work, that the mobile phone or communication plays a very important role. It's like a leitmotif almost in most of your shows and your movies.
first
You know?
film,
Looks like
99.
this time somebody summarized it. We had a character we had a recurring character in our stories, films, and series. That's the mobile phone,
That's
and
the
we've
mobile-
always used it to hilarious extent.
99 has some such crazy, funny jokes about calling
Network
and
and
each other and missing
And Guns and Gulaabs, as far as I can see, is set in the pre-mobile era.
yeah.
But you have the telephone. Do you think you've used a telephone in the same way?
No, in fact, what they did was by taking out the phone from the story, the scenes were written differently. The scenes formed differently by themselves. So that's what the fun was. That many scenes won't exist if you put a phone in.
Okay.
If you just give the phone to the bad guy or the protagonist, the scene won't exist.
The scene one day.
Yeah,
That must have been quite a different challenge for you to work
it's
around.
fun. It's fun. We have to challenge ourselves.
As creative people, we've been hearing a lot about AI. How do you see it? Is it a threat? Is it an opportunity? How does it work for you?
Any
AI. I mean,
any innovation
it's inevitable, right? I mean, it's bound to happen, and I think rightfully so. I mean, especially in Hollywood right now, everybody's going on strike to get certain rights, assured, knowing that AI is going to come. I don't think there's anybody who's trying to stop AI from coming. All they know is when AI comes, certain things are going to change. We need to be protected. Like, for example, a broad stroke example, if an actor feels that he's going to be replaced by AI in future, like your likeness, your voice can be created by a computer without needing you, the actor is saying, I can't stop it from happening, but you better pay me for doing it because you're still using my likeness. Which, I mean, I think that's the larger discourse there. And it happens, right? I mean, every generation or even beyond, like I would say maybe 100 years ago when mechanized assembly lines in the manufacturing industry was happening, all the people were feeling that they're going to lose their jobs. So there would have been a huge, turmoil around that time. But I don't think you can stop development from happening. So it is bound to happen. If not now, a little later. I mean, digital came, there were people who were talking about the death of film or trying to protect film, but what happens eventually happens.
So this is like the technological industrial revolution of our times.
It's always there's always one that happens, and
Yeah.
you have to. We hope that it's used in the right way,
Yeah.
And you are, if you either you embrace it or you're forced to embrace it.
Forced to embrace it. Wise words. Finally, tell me about Citadel and your upcoming projects. What can we expect from Raj and DK next?
We finished our shoot on the Indian segment of Citadel.
Bill? Okay.
Almost finished. There's like 3 days left, but that's next week. So, I mean, what more can I say? So we are in post-production on that. There are a couple more shows that are in development for Netflix.
For Netflix
And
itself.
of course, we are working on Family Man season 3.
We have a
And,
show called Gulkanda Tales
Sorry?
that's also pretty much ready to
Yeah.
go.
That's going to be on Netflix itself?
That's
Or-
on Amazon.
That's on Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
So, Family Man, Gulkanda Tales,
Yeah, I think the
Citadel.
order would be Citadel. I
Citadel.
don't know the order, but I'm just saying Citadel and Gulkanda Tales are in post production. And we're writing the Family Man 3, and we have to get to Guns and Gulaabs and Fuzzy. And actually, it's stressing me out. I don't think I'm going to answer the question.
And there's a feature film we are planning to put on the floors later this year. That's we are very excited about it, right? I mean, we've been raring to make a feature film as well because we've been making all these series. And it's been kind of back to back, and it's been hard to find time to do this, but it's getting ready. So hopefully we'll put a feature film on the floors by the end of this year. That's also a very fun film that we are can't wait to get it going. Yeah.
Can't wait to watch it. If you get a chance to make a book into a movie, which one would it be?
It's a tough one. A very tough one. I mean, we've never turned a book into a movie.
I know it's not a book, but you know what's a fun movie that can be made? It's Calvin and Hobbes.
Lovely. I love
mind
that.
blowing. Actually, why did nobody think about it yet? They made Barbie into a movie. Asterix has been made. Tintin has been made. Why
Calvin
not
and
Calvin
Hobbes.
and Hobbes?
Yeah.
It's waiting for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Your most neglected hobbies?
Music.
Music. What about you?
Reading. I used to read a lot.
Lot.
I think that changed
No
when the
time
internet
now.
came. Yeah.
Oh, what a pity.
Yeah.
It makes me sad as an author. Just hoping that you find some time to get back to reading.
Yeah.
We all need readers out there. Your favorite genre of movie? Given that you all make movies across genres.
Favorite genre? Go-to genre would be a dark comedy.
Dark comedy. Both
Like
of you?
this one, Guns and Gulaabs. Yeah.
Like Guns and Gulaabs.
Yeah.
A nickname you would give him?
You're testing my creativity right now. I can't think of a nickname.
No
for it.
problem. An actor both of you would like to work with and haven't worked with yet?
Shah Rukh Khan.
Shah Rukh Khan.
SRK.
From your lips to the universe, may it happen. A movie or a series you wish you had made?
Succession.
Succession. What about it?
Succession. He already said it.
Oh,
I don't know. Narcos.
a director living or dead that both of you admire?
Actually, many. All
Many.
the names we rattled off
Lovely.
earlier. From David Fincher to Christopher Nolan to Ram Gopal Verma to Maniratnam to
Okay.
lots of these guys. Yeah, everyone. A lot of them.
Finally, one for each for the other. One piece of advice you'd like to give him.
Okay, I think he needs to learn to de-stress around bedtime. That's the first thing, because I think he goes to bed with the laptop and wakes up with the laptop. So I would say put that away.
Lovely, wise words. What about
For
you?
him, no, I was gonna say use logic less, but
I don't know.
it comes handy to have his logic for a lot of things. So yeah,
Use logic less and use the laptop less. Keep the laptop away. Lovely. Thank you so
Thank you.
much for your time
you.
and all the very best with Guns and Gulaabs. And looking forward to your new episodes on Family Man whenever that happens.
sure.
Looking forward to what's coming in Gulkanda Tales as well as latest on
Citadel.
That's
Yep.
coming up. Thank you so much. And with that, that's a wrap on Chasing Creativity with Kiran Mandral. I was chatting with Rajan DK. Do catch us on Apple Podcasts, BingePod, Spotify, wherever you get your audio content. See you next week.